In my previous video, we talked about what is Angular, where we mentioned that it's a framework because it solves a certain problem. In this video, we are actually going to have a look on those problems, or in other words, what are the features that Angular provides. There's a whole bunch of features, the exhaustive list of which can be found under angular.io/features. In this video, we are going to talk about some of the key features. The first one in that list is a single page application. So how Angular helps you create single page application. To understand the concept behind a single page application, we have to understand how traditionally website used to work. When you visit a website, a HTML document is loaded by a browser. That page might contain URL to several other pages, and when you hit that URL, totally separate document, an HTML document, is fetched from the server and rendered into the browser. But in case of a single page application, it works in a similar way that when you visit it for the first time, it loads a HTML document. But any further navigation within that, like through URLs or buttons, will not load an entire page or will not load an entire HTML page from the server. It will just bring the content that is relevant to that URL. It might not be so clear unless we actually visit these two kinds of website. I will go to the developers console and keep the network tab opened so that you can see that what are the requests that are made by the browser in order to load the page. First, I will visit a multi-page application and none other than the stackoverflow.com. But before I actually hit this URL, I want you to focus on this reload icon. As soon as I hit this URL, that reload icon changes to a cross icon. Now this has a little significance. When it changes to that cross icon, browser is actually telling you to wait because it is loading a new HTML page, a whole new page which is getting loaded into your window. Now if we look at the network tab, you will see a whole list of requests were made to load this simple page. Well, the first request that you are seeing on the list is the one which went first. So these are loaded in this sequence, they are requested for. So the first one was requested first because we hit this URL in the address bar. So this request went in and the initiator was other, which is the user here, because we are trying to access this website through the address bar. Now the type of the response that we got is of type document or a HTML document, which is the main thing here, which is the main information that is served to us. The other subsequent request, however, was actually dependency of this document, because a HTML document also might need CSS files, JavaScript files, images file and whatnot, right? So those requests were made to load those files for this one to render properly. Now let me clear the log and hit any other URL. Now you notice again this reload icon. When I'm hitting this URL, this again gets changed to a cross icon, and nothing different than the previous page. It again loads a document and was initiated by other. So though there are many common resources between these two pages, because they shares a lot of common UI feature like the nav bar, the sidebar and whatnot, but these two pages are totally differently loaded and is not dependent on each other, is no way related. That's a problem because most of the resources, even being common, are reloaded multiple times or redundant informations are getting fetched from the server. This slows down the user experience and also waste your network bandwidth, which is not a good thing. This is what is eliminated in a single page application. Now let me visit a single page web application. For that, I will open a new tab and open the developers console. And with no surprise, we are going to visit angular.io. This time also the reload icon changes to cross. And if we look at the network tab, the first request has brought me a new HTML document. So actually there is no difference between the multi-page application and the single page application when we load it for the first time. We are visiting this angular.io for the first time, and hence it brought me a new document and it behaved just similar to the previous website. But now when it is loaded into my browser, the game changes. Now it will behave like an application. Let me clear the log and visit any of these URLs. All these menu items are pointing to different URLs. Let me visit the resources, but this time I want you to notice this reload icon doesn't change. It keeps to be a reload icon, it doesn't change to a cross. And if we look at the behind the scene activity, we'll see that this time the request type is different. It is XHR, which is an abbreviated form of XML HTTP request, which is generally used under AJAX kind of framework. If you know what AJAX is, so AJAX are used to bring the content from the server on the fly when you don't want the entire page to reload, but based on an on need basis you fetch certain document from the server, you do the AJAX. It is similar to that. The URL that we hit is not bringing me an entire page, but only the content which is required to be displayed here. Any URL will load very fast. It's unlike the other multi-page application. This is the beauty of a single page application. It doesn't only give you an app-like experience, it is giving a very fast experience than the multi-page application. And also the network bandwidth usage is now less because you are not loading redundant information from the server. Now let's talk about the next item in that feature list, which is cross-platform. I've already talked about this feature in my first video where I discussed how Angular serves as a platform. Here I'm just going to reiterate that when you create a website, that can only be run in a browser, because a website is mostly created using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, which is only known by a browser. So your browser knows how to render using this technology. With the same code base, you cannot create a software which can be run in a Android or a Windows. But with Angular, you are not restricted anymore. With that same code base, you can create an Angular application or a Windows application with obviously few changes in the code, but that's not significant. Thus, your application gets a cross-platform capability when you build using Angular. Let's talk about the next feature, which is Angular command line interface or Angular CLI. Angular comes with a command line tool which can be installed using npm or node package manager, and once you install it, you'll be enabled to use a lot of Angular specific commands which can help you from the creation of the application to all the way till the deployment. We'll have a dedicated video on Angular CLI where we will discuss these commands in detail, but as of now, this is just an overview. The last feature that I would like to highlight is reusability and maintainability. And I would say this is the main feature for which you should consider switching from the traditional technology to a framework like Angular. If you are coming from a backend application background, then you will find front-end technologies to be very much unorganized by the fact that there will be JS files everywhere and there will be collisions of variable and functions. Though you can forcefully organize it, but when the application size grows, it ultimately goes out of control. Angular greatly helps you to modularize your code, and if you have a certain UI feature, you can extract that UI feature out into a component so that you can reuse that component across several pages where it is required. You also have a feature of lazy loading so that you can filter out those features which is not required in the current page, which keeps the application lightweight and fast. You will get the feel what I am talking about once you get your hands dirty with Angular. So this is it for now. If you have any question, drop them in the comment section and I will see you in the next one.